Today was not the birth of DeFi on Cardano. It wasn't even the birth of decentralized exchanges on Cardano. But today was the day Cardano crossed a Rubicon. Today we were liquidity providers, swappers, and future yield farmers, all in a hybrid AMM/order book. The going was not easy, but just like Caesar's army knew in January, coincidentally January of 49 BC, crossing that stream was only the first rough step to conquering Rome. Ready? Let's go. Today was a huge leap forward for the entire Cardano ecosystem. First of all, congratulations to the SundaeSwap team and to all of us. It was also 100% as much carnage as we expected, and people were not shy about voicing their frustrations. Luckily, I think the SundaeSwap team did a really good job of crafting expectations so that all of us who were paying attention kind of knew this was going to happen. The day started off with a period where you could create pools and you could provide liquidity pools. You could LP into those pools, but you couldn't swap. Swapping was scheduled to begin at 21:45 UTC. And here's where it started getting interesting right off the bat. Reports started rolling into the SundaeSwap Discord from people who were attempting to LP into these pools that CC Vault seemed to be working better than Nami. And there were various explanations as to why that might be the case. Maybe there were fewer users of CC Vault, and so they were able to process your transactions, get your transactions broadcast to the network a little bit quicker. Whatever it was, CC Vault seemed to be working a little bit better than Nami. 21:45 UTC rolled around, and those of us who had decided to switch over and try to use CC Vault were all kind of scrambling to figure out how the collateral could be set up in CC Vault. If you've been involved in using MuesliSwap or certain other things involving smart contract interaction, you're probably used to setting the collateral in Nami. You can set 5 ADA collateral pretty easily just by clicking on your profile in Nami and going down to the settings and setting the collateral. But there seemed to be no native way to set collateral in CC Vault, and there were various explanations rolling around that the dApps themselves had to create a mechanism to set collateral in CC Vault. I saw one explanation that said that you needed to have a transaction sent to yourself of less than 10 ADA so that UTXO could be used as a collateral. It was all a little bit unclear to me, and it looked to me like dozens of people, when I searched collateral CC Vault in the SundaeSwap Discord, it looked like dozens of people had asked that same question, and various responses had come back, but it looked like you would not need to worry about collateral for swaps in SundaeSwap, which was welcome news. This was a relief. 21:45 rolls around. What none of us knew, well, none of us except for maybe one party. Nobody really knows if it's one person or several individuals, but one party had figured out something that we all kind of knew, but they had figured out how to make great use of this one thing. And the fundamental concept was that a DEX like SundaeSwap is a couple of different things. It's a protocol that exists on the blockchain. It's a smart contract, a bunch of scripts that are used to lock UTXOs. It's also a front-end platform. And you can use the protocol without using the front-end platform. And in the case of SundaeSwap, someone did that. They decided to use the protocol when the protocol was available, but before the platform, the front end, was available for the rest of us. You can see the report of this happening from this poster, who also sort of called in and became a speaker in the AMA that happened after the launch. We'll go over that in a second. So this poster says the first swap orders got into the blockchain at 21:38 UTC, a full 7 minutes before the launch. Maybe not a full 7 minutes, but about 7 minutes before the launch. He talks about whether or not, his message was deleted by mods. That was kind of cleared up later. But he says 1.1 million ADA worth of 2 orders moved price by 60% up. Here's the address of the person who did this. This is the transaction ID for the first order, which was 700,000 ADA. This is the transaction ID for the second order, which was 400,000 ADA. So what happened here, and this was kind of broken down a little bit forensically in the AMA Twitter space that SundaeSwap put on after the launch. Really great. I'm really glad they did that. I think it was a great step in the spirit of transparency. So thank you to the SundaeSwap team for doing that. And this poster who reported this actually discussed it with the SundaeSwap team right in the Twitter space, and everything was kind of cleared up. But apparently what happened was someone who obviously realized this difference between the protocol and the platform crafted a transaction by hand to put these 2 orders for 700,000 ADA and 400,000 ADA into the queue first to swap for SundaeSwap tokens. So this was 7 minutes before the launch. And then when the scoopers, who are the off-chain sort of order batchers for SundaeSwap, they created these transactions by hand. Then they were scooped by the scoopers, obviously first, because they were first in the queue. And this poster here is saying that bumped the price up by 60%. The price started out at something, what was it, 0.113889. I'm probably screwing up those last few digits, but it was very low. It was like 0.11 something ADA, very, very low. And immediately, none of us knew this was happening. None of us knew this had gone down. But immediately, there was this bump in price because these gigantic orders for 1.1 million ADA were ahead of all of us. I think, to be fair, I don't think there's really a way for the SundaeSwap team to have prevented this or to have realized that this was going to happen. I think one crafty person just decided to make very beneficial use of everyone using the SundaeSwap platform, while this crafty person could create a transaction by hand and just use the protocol directly a little bit ahead of everyone else, 7 minutes ahead of everybody else. So probably not a lot we could do about that. But the effect was that if you were one of those people who put your order in the first, 60 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever, however fast your little fingers could move, if you're one of the people who put your order in extremely fast and you didn't set your slippage high enough, the price jumped much quicker than you were probably expecting. If the slippage was too high, and this was clarified during the AMA after the launch, if your slippage was set to the default, which is something like 1 or 1.5%, and the price had moved further than 1.5%, because obviously this is we have orders coming in and they're moving the price around. And so if the price increased more than 1.5%, here this poster is saying the price increased by 60% because of these 2 orders aggregating to 1.1 million ADA. If the price moved by more than 60% and you use the default slippage was beyond the threshold you had set in your order. But the way this AMM/order book works is your order goes out onto the blockchain and your money is locked by that script on the blockchain, safe, but locked there until the price, the available price, is within your slippage threshold. So obviously the price bumped up by 60%. If you use the default slippage, that price was not available and your order just kind of sat there. This is okay to me. I kind of expected this, and I don't see a problem with that. The practical problem came in for a lot of people, I think, because after that happened, apparently the best way to remedy the situation is just to cancel your order, and then your funds would be unlocked and returned to you. I think that's the idea. But because of the gigantic amount of transactions happening on the network and the surge of transactions that the wallets were having to do with, it seemed to be very, very difficult to cancel your order. I haven't yet run into an account of someone who was able to cancel their order. I was talking to a few people in real life as well who couldn't seem to be able to cancel their order. So I think this is where it was people experienced some frustration in that their orders couldn't go through. And then when they realized their funds were locked on the blockchain and they couldn't cancel their orders, I think that just caused further frustration. This is exactly the kind of carnage we expected on launch day. We knew this was going to happen. In fact, SundaeSwap went as far as to tell us that it might take days to execute our orders. I think a sincere thank you is due to the SundaeSwap team for putting out that article warning us that we might have very, very significant delays in executing our orders on launch day. It would have been probably easy for a team like SundaeSwap to just sort of throw their hands up and say, hey, it's not our problem. Just push the product out on launch day. We don't need to cast all this doubt beforehand. But instead, they did their best to actually craft people's expectations as to what was going to happen on launch day. And it turned out they were exactly correct. There were these massive, significant delays and blockages just due to the throughput parameters of the network currently, which are going to be increased over the coming year, as we've discussed many, many times. So I'm really glad they pushed that out, and they didn't just let the sort of Cardano public encounter these problems unawares. That was a really good move by the SundaeSwap team. It, of course, is not going to stop the maximalists of other blockchains from creating as much drama as possible. We saw that today. We'll see that tomorrow. There are probably going to be articles in the big crypto publications about how orders couldn't be executed on SundaeSwap on launch. All those kind of things. I don't think any of that matters. It's just like the concurrency fiasco. The maximalists from Ethereum and Solana and other blockchains tried to make it sound like concurrency was a gigantic quagmire from which Cardano could never retrieve itself. And of course, concurrency, not a problem. Turned out, I think this is going to be the same way. The throughput issues today, I think in 6 months, 9 months, I don't know how long, 12 months maybe, but some period of months in the future, we'll look back on today's throughput issues the same way we look back on concurrency now. Speaking of transparency, I really appreciated that the SundaeSwap team did an AMA style Twitter space right after the launch. They were there pretty much immediately and ready to answer any and all questions. And of course, one of the very first questions that came up was about those two front-running transactions, and they explained exactly what had gone on, everything they knew about it at least. Then pretty quickly, they got a question about what price would a user get. So when a user entered an order for a swap into the platform, obviously, there was this gigantic delay. And I think at this point, at the time I record, we still don't even really know how long this delay is going to be for orders to get executed. Obviously, certain orders were executed sort of throughout the day today, but I think a lot of people are still waiting for their orders to get executed, of course. So we don't know how long this will take. But the question came up, what price will those orders get? Will it be the price when the order was placed or the price when the order gets scooped? So the answer was predictable when you think about the fact that Sunday is a combination AMM/order book. So each order in SundaeSwap is its own order. If you don't get a price within your slippage range, the order will just sort of sit there on the chain. That was the answer that was given to that question, at least my understanding of the answer that was given. So it sounded like the best way to remedy the situation was just to cancel your order. That brought the next question. Is there a way to tell if your order was within your slippage range and is just waiting to be scooped, or if your order actually, if the slippage range you included in your order was not sufficient to accommodate whatever the price actually was when your order was executed? They said there's a technical way to tell. You can look at the chain and you could actually figure out the answer to this question, but that for most casual users of the SundaeSwap platform, they could probably make it a lot more obvious to users. So I don't know if this will ever happen again, but it sounds like maybe in the future they could actually build something out to give people a better idea of whether or not their order is just waiting to be processed by the scoopers, or it's just outside, like in the case of a lot of us, I think today, maybe orders were the slippage had happened so fast it was already outside the range specified in the order. They got another question about why they would launch now, and the answer was predictable, but kind of interesting. They said, "Hey, we could have launched 6 months from now, 9 months from now, 2 months from now, but a lot of other DeFi projects are going to launch in the meantime. And yes, there are all these network optimizations happening, and which will increase throughput on the Cardano network, but there will also be a lot of other projects launching. And there wasn't really a guarantee that any point in the future would necessarily be the optimal point to launch versus right now. And it sounds like they just kind of made the decision, why don't we just go ahead and launch? I appreciate this. I think they knew that launching this week in January would be tough going. And they decided to just go ahead and launch anyways. I really appreciate this. I think we needed to cross this Rubicon. And whether it happened today or in 6 months or 6 weeks or 6 days, we had to actually launch one of these big monster dexes and just see where we're at. I mean, things are only going to get better from here. Speaking of the launching of all these dexes, they also got a question about whether or not they're going to open source their software. They said they want to do it. They want to open source their software, and they don't see any reason why every other team should have to reinvent something that's similar to their sort of scooper model for the off-chain portion of the transaction batching and execution. So they want to open source their software, but they at the same time they didn't want to create fodder for scam dexes, because they knew if they open sourced all their software now, it would be really easy for sketchy characters to come in, sort of launch something that looked like a SundaeSwap, and maybe use that for malignant purposes. So they say that everybody, it sounds like everybody in the SundaeSwap team is in favor of open sourcing everything. It's just a matter of timing when they actually open source everything. And it sounds like that's going to be at some point down the road. I think today was the day. I was going to say a good day to launch. We'll never know if today was the best day for a giant DEX like this to launch, but today was the day that it happened. And I'm glad we crossed this threshold. This was going to have to happen at some point. I think no matter when it happened, it was going to be rough. I know that today was a bit tense for some, but I hope that everybody made it out alive and you're looking forward to a great weekend. I will talk to you soon.